Hi there, this is Patricia from patriciafenty.com, and today we are going to make this really cute crocheted granny squared poncho for toddlers. And it's an easy project, but I have broken it down into two parts, part one and part two, because it's actually a fairly big project, but not hard to do. So in part one, you're going to learn how to do the granny squares and then sew the blocks together. And we'll talk about color and stuff. And then in part two, we're going to make the actual poncho shape and do the finishing edge around the neck and the bottom. So you can see how sweet this is. I think it's such a cute project. Now this is a toddler size, 12 to 18 months. I'll show you how you can modify it to make either smaller or larger by adjusting the size of the granny squares. So let's get started. Now the yarns that I'm using for this project, for the most part, are the Bernat premium yarns. And with the exception of this one here, these two here are the Bernat Super Value, and this is Cascade Yarns Anthem, but they're all number 4 medium weight yarns and acrylic yarn. And I like using yarns like this for this sort of project because they're very durable. You can wash them easily and they're nice to use. Now, some people don't like these yarns because they think that they're too stiff, but they do soften once you wash them. Now, some people recommend using products like Bounce and Downy or Snuggle Soft, things like that. I don't recommend using any scented laundry products ever. And the reason for that is that the synthetic fragrance in laundry products are actually really unhealthy. I think a lot of people don't realize how many chemicals, synthetic chemicals there are in those products. And there's known carcinogens, and those are cancer-causing agents. So I don't know why people would want to use scented laundry products, especially on your children's clothing and bedding. So I do have an article about that. If you're interested, I'll link to that below. So just use unscented laundry detergent. There's lots of choices out there. So the colors that I have here are aqua, and this is teal. Here we have peony pink. This is coral peach. This is hot pink. This is just color number 9. This here is spring green and then gold. So I have 8 colors here, and 9 colors would be better, but 6 or 9 would be good. But I'll talk a little bit about color theory later on. You'll need a 4mm or G6 crochet hook, some scissors, and a darning needle. So that's it. Now to figure out what size to make your poncho, the size we're doing here is for toddlers 12 to 18 months. For that size, you want to make your squares 2 3/4 inches or 7 centimeters across. And I achieve that by using a 4mm or G6 crochet hook. If you want to go larger and do the 18 to 24 months, then you want to make your squares 3 inches across or 7.5 centimeters. And you can achieve that by going up a size in your crochet hook, maybe a 7 or 4.5mm hook. And I didn't make a smaller one, but if you want to go to a 6 to 12 month, then you can make the squares 2.5 inches or 6.5 centimeters. And you want to do a sample square because it'll depend on your tension as well. So you want to play around and get your gauge and size of square first. All right. So you're going to need 36 granny squares all together. And of course, if you know how to make granny squares, you can skip past this part. But if not, I will just do a little tutorial on the granny square pattern. So you'll start with a slip knot. And if you're new to crochet, I do have a beginner crochet series. I'll put a link to that below. So put your slip knot on your hook, set up your tension, and chain 5. And then you're going to create a ring, and by doing a slip stitch into the top post of that first chain and pull it through just like that. Then you'll chain 3, and that counts as your first double crochet, and then you're going to do 2 double crochets into the ring. So yarn over, put your hook into the ring, bring your yarn through, you'll have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Then do that again, so yarn over, put your hook into the ring, bring the yarn through, you'll have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over through 2 loops. And again, this is all in the beginners series. And then chain 2, that'll be your corner, and then you're going to work a set of 3 double crochets into the ring. And essentially that's what granny squares are, just sets of 3 double crochets in all different types of ways. And there's different ways to do granny squares. I'm just doing it this way for this tutorial. So now you chain 2, and then you're going to carry on and do 2 more sets of 3 double crochets with chain 2s in between, and I'll see you on the other side. Here we are at the end, and I've just finished my last set of 3 double crochets, and now chain 2. And then you'll join this round by going into the 3rd chain of your beginning chain 3, going under the 2 posts of that stitch, those 2 top stitches there, and just do a slip stitch. So yarn over, pull the yarn through, oopsie. That stitch can be a little bit tight, and then through that one, just like that, and chain 1 to fasten off. Some people don't do the chain 1 to fasten off. That's totally up to you. I think it makes a nice tight finish. So that's the end of round 1. Now we're going to join on a new color, and you can join on by doing a slip knot. And there's lots of different ways to join on. This is how I do it. So put your loop on your hook, and starting in any chain 2 space, put your hook through the space, grab your yarn from behind, bring it through, and then flip your tail over and just do a slip stitch. And that's a nice secure way to attach your new color. So set up your tension and chain 3, and that counts as your first double crochet. And I like to crochet in my tails as I go, so I'll just flip the tail in behind there. We're going to do 2 more double crochets into that chain 2 space, and then chain 2. And some people like to chain 3 in their corners. I'm doing a chain 2. And then we're going to do another set of 3 double crochets into that chain 2 space. And 3. Now when I'm crocheting in my tails, what I like to do is I go part of the way with crocheting in the tail, and then I darn the tail in the other direction. So I'm going to drop the teal color now, and then I'll pick up the pink. So now you chain 1 in between your corners, and you're going to the next corner, the next chain 2 space, and work another corner. So you'll do a set of 3 double crochets and a chain 2, and then another set of 3 double crochets, and you'll work each corner in the same way, and then a chain 1. So go ahead and do that 2 more times, and I'll see you on the other side. Here we are. I'm coming out of the last corner, and then I'll just do my chain 1. Now, if you were carrying on with the granny square and doing more rounds, you would just carry on by doing your slip stitch into the third chain of your beginning chain 3 and just fasten off as usual. But this is our last round, the final round. I like to do a knot-free finish, and if you've seen any of my other tutorials, I like to do this type of finish. So you just cut your yarn and pull the yarn through like that, and don't pull too tight, and then you thread this onto your needle. And then what you're going to do is you're going to come in from the back and go underneath those 2 posts of the third chain of the beginning chain 3 and pull your yarn through, and essentially you're just mimicking a stitch here. And then this was your chain 1, so you're going to go back down into the middle V of that chain 1, and you're going to come out the back of your work here. And just pull that through and see what a nice even finish that gives. And you have no knots to work into. And when you're stitching or joining your squares together, you're not having to deal with a knot. Then I just like to darn in my tail ends. I darn them in as I go, but you can do it any way that you like. And so I like to go in one direction and then come back in the other direction, just like that. And then sort of adjust it and make sure it's nice and even. And I was showing how I crochet part of the tail in, so I just went in part way, and now I'll just darn back the other way, and the same here and same here. So it goes pretty quickly. So there you go. Now you're going to need 36 of these. So next I will show you how I've laid all of mine out and talk a bit about color theory. All right, so what you're going to have is of your 36 squares, so essentially you're going to have 4 blocks with 9 squares in each block. So what you want to do is you want to think about your colors, and depending on however many colors you have, you want to lay them out so that you don't have any of the same outside colors the same side by side. So I have 8 colors. 9 would have been perfect, but 8 worked out fine. So I had to choose a color that I wanted to duplicate. So I did the green, and I duplicated that in each block. So this block and this block are similar, but they're different. And then these 2 blocks will be joined together to create a panel. And then you'll create 2 panels that are just the same, and they'll be sewn together to make the poncho. So you want to make sure that you're not putting 2 same colors side by side, you know, 2 green ones side by side, or like that. And I know it's kind of hard to tell in the camera the colors, but this is the light teal, and that's the dark teal. That's the light teal. That's the dark teal. That's dark teal, light teal, light teal. I think the other colors are pretty straightforward. So that's how that would look. So then what you want to do is create 2 more blocks that are exactly the same as those first 2 blocks. So you'll have 2 panels that are the same. And then you'll sew the squares together like this. They're a little bit different. I changed the inside colors a little bit. That's not a big deal, but you want to keep the colors on the outside. You want to keep those the same, because with all these colors it can actually get a little bit complicated. So we'll have these 2 blocks sewn together into one panel, and then the panel is going to come over to this side here, and it's going to be shaped like an L. So you want to make sure that these colors all match up with these colors. And if you follow this color scheme or something similar to it, it will match up just fine. And if you're doing your own color design, you may want to draw it out in a little sketch like this. So you create your 2 panels that are exactly the same, and you join them together in this way. And then the trickiest part of all of this is that this panel is going to match up right to this side here, and I'll show you how that works. So that's how it joins up over there. And I know that these colors will all work well together. So it takes a little bit of figuring, and so that's how you can work with all these different colors. Again, you can do a little sketch if you want to do a different color combination. And I'm going to be doing the trim all in the light teal and all the seaming in the light teal. And I've actually sewn them together. You can see here the light teal in the back, and I'm doing a whip stitch from the back, and I'll show you how to do that next. And so you do want to pin all your squares together to keep track of them, because it can be really easy to mix them up, and you might even want to take a picture of it. So we're going to start by sewing together this short ends here of these squares, and then we'll sew the rows together like this. And you'll be working into the back side of your squares. And what you want to do for these small ends is you're going to take a piece that's 3 times the length of your squares and thread that onto your needle. And we're working into the back stitch of the crochet stitch. I don't know if you ever thought about it, but each crochet stitch has 3 loops. You have these top ones that we're often working into or working with, and we go under both loops or both posts, but we almost never deal with the very back post or back loop, the 3rd stitch, and that's what we're going to be stitching into. And you can see here it's this obvious bump in the back of the work. You can see that there. So those are the stitches we're going to be working into. Now your chain stitches are a little bit trickier to find, but if you flip this over, you'll see your obvious V on the top. There's chain 1, chain 2. When I come back, there's the back right there. So when we're sewing these together, we're going to go from one corner all the way to the other. So you want to start in that first chain of your chain 2 corner. And so you go in, and you can see that's the chain 1 and chain 2. So we'll go into the back of that first one, and we're going into the post from this direction, just like that. And leave a bit of a tail, and then pick up the back post of the next stitch and going in the direction sort of away from you, in the front of you to away from you, if that makes sense. And then go into the back of the next stitch right there. And pull that kind of snug. You don't want to be too snug, but nice snug enough. And then coming over to the next stitch, there's your back bump. And this is the next back bump. And you're always working in the same direction, starting with the needle from the one side closest to you. And you may have a hard time finding these at first, but you will get the hang of it. See, there you go. And again, you want to make this reasonably snug, but not too tight. I'll take my pin out now. And here is the next bump and that one. And you'll see they line up quite nicely. And if you don't get it perfectly right, it's fine because you're working from the back. Just do the best that you can. But here we're into the chain 1 space, and you want to make sure you're not picking up this top one. That's your top post. You want to pick the one up just below it, just like that. And then just carry on and go all the way to the other side. And then once you get to the chain stitches in the corner, that's my first chain, and that's my first chain on that square. And then we're going to pick up the second chain as well. There's different ways to join squares. Some people would stop at this point and they would join that with the next side, but I'm going to join it up now. because then we'll have a nice straight side to sew into when we're joining the panels. There we go. And so you just want to darn your tails in, and you can see how nicely that looks. And once you darn these in, you don't really see them. So go ahead and do that. Join all your short ends together, and then I'll come back and show you about the long edge. So I have 2 rows done here. So I'm just going to join the long edge here. So again, you're just going to work in the back. And in this case, you want your yarn to be 2.5 lengths, about that. So 2.5 times your length for your tail end. And then you're just going to sew in the same way, and I'll just speed this up here a little bit. So again, starting at that first chain of your chain 2 corners and joining both chains together and then sewing along. And this is where you've done your invisible join, and there's actually not really a back post, so you want to just find a back stitch that's close to it. So just pick up a stitch from the back, something that you can sew into, and then carry on working your way across. And you'll see that you're lining up your posts. You'll see these bumps are in line, and you want to make sure they're in line as you come into the corner. Then as you get into the corner, you want to pick up, it's a little bit hard to see, this stitch where your seam was done on the other side. So you're going to pick that up again and on the other side. And then you're also going to pick up the stitch that you did from the joining of those 2 squares, and you're going to pick up the stitch on each side, and that gives you a really nice tight join in your intersection. And then you have this stitch from the previous row, and you'll pick those up as well. And then you'll just carry on picking up your regular back bumps, and those should be a little bit easier to find as you go. And I'll just show you here on the front side how that intersection looks. So go ahead and join your blocks together in this way. Now here are the blocks, and oh, see, this is, there we go. I think that's how it goes. This is why it's a good idea to take a picture, because it is really easy to get these messed up. So I think this is the right way. But anyways, so once you have your 2 blocks sewn together, then you'll sew those blocks together so that you have a panel, and you'll create 2 panels that are the same, and that's the end of part 1. And in part 2, we're going to join the panels together to make the poncho shape, and we'll finish around the neck and the outside edge. So we'll see you in part 2.